Hey, thanks, Sean. Hello, and welcome to the CNA e-tool for servicing lenders webinar. My name is Daniel Clark, and I'll be delivering today's presentation alongside my colleague, Amir Sadeh. So I'll just do some brief speaker introductions now. My picture is on the left. I'm the branch chief, in the Multifamily Asset Counterparty Oversight Division at HUD. I've served as the Asset Oversight Branch Chief for multifamily housing since 2021. My branch is responsible for the overall risk management of the multifamily portfolio, including all of our insured properties and assisted-only properties. This risk management includes oversight of physical inspections, capital needs assessments like we're talking about today, annual financial statements, property risk ratings, troubled properties, and property disposition. Been with the Office of Multifamily Housing since I came to HUD in 2014. Next, the picture below me is my colleague Amir Sadeh, management analyst with the Multifamily Asset Counterparty Oversight Division here at HUD. Amir is finishing his Presidential Management Fellowship and has been employed at HUD since September of 2022. During his initial appointment to the Office of Housing, he worked for Assistant Secretary for Housing, Federal Housing Commissioner Julia Gordon. Now, with the Office of Asset Management in Multifamily Housing, he's currently tasked with the implementation of the Capital Needs Assessment e-tool and Green MIP compliance. Many of you might have responsibilities for Green MIP compliance for some of your properties. Amir is your contact for that as well. And prior to working at HUD, Amir received his PhD in political science from the University of Notre Dame. So today's agenda, after we finish this welcome and overview, we'll do a brief introduction to CNAs, the CNA e-tool, including some of the requirements and deadlines from the relevant housing notice and memos from 2023. We'll then introduce a series of training videos on the CNA e-tool created specifically for service mortgagee staff. We'll walk through some of the steps for gaining access to the e-tool. We'll watch one of the training videos about initiating a CNA, and then Amir will present some more detail about the e-tool that are most relevant for this audience, how it's organized, roles and responsibilities, brief overview of some of the screens, and where to find additional resources. Then we'll have some time for Q&A before wrapping up. So, learning objectives for today. So servicing lenders will learn to access and navigate the CNA e-tool, define various roles and responsibilities associated with CNA e-tool, understand which screens servicing lenders complete, and identify resources and points of contact for CNA e-tool. So, introduction to CNA e-tool. So Capital Needs Assessment, CNA, is a report that describes the physical inventory of a multifamily properties. It identifies needed repairs and costs and includes a current and future schedule of repairs, replacements, and capital improvements. The CNA e-tool is a cloud-based tool that automates CNAs and lets you submit CNA findings online to HUD for review and approval. The CNA e-tool calculates the costs of immediate repairs and calculates deposits to the reserve for replacement while allowing for appropriate assumptions concerning variables such as inflation, interest on reserve balances, and minimum required balances. You can access the CNA e-tool through the CNA e-tool homepage on HUD.gov. And of course, we're going to look at that in more detail. I want to take a moment now for a polling question. We'd like to hear from everyone attending to learn your familiarity with the e-tool. We're going to launch the poll on the screen. It's in the bottom right corner now. How many CNAs have you submitted using the CNA e-tool? So if you've never used the CNA e-tool, you can select none. If you're familiar with it and you've submitted some CNAs, you can select 1 to 5. Or you might be more advanced and have submitted more than 5 CNAs. Just give a minute for everyone to finish, and then our host will bring the results up for us to see. Right, so make sure you have to, I think after you make your selection, make sure you hit the submit button too. We can go ahead and take a look at the results that we've got so far. So, good, so we have quite a few new people. 57% have never submitted a CNA using the CNA e-tool. 12% have submitted 1 to 5, and 10% more than 5. The very experienced, you might want to, if you could, maybe send me your name so I can reach out to you for questions. And we had a few people who did not answer the question. So it's good. We have a lot of new people here, but also some experienced and more experienced as well. Thank you. So when is the CNA e-tool required? So Housing Notice 2303 provides guidance on policy for CNAs and using CNA e-tool. Several events trigger that a CNA must be performed on a property. First, when there's a 10-year update for an FHA insured property, every 10 years from the date of final endorsement, a CNA needs to be performed. Next, when there is a rental assistance demonstration conversion known as RAD. RAD seeks to preserve and improve certain kinds of affordable housing subsidized by HUD. RAD allows public housing agencies and owners of HUD-assisted properties to convert units to project-based Section 8 programs, providing an opportunity to invest billions into properties at risk of being lost from the nation's affordable housing inventory. And sometimes those RAD deals include FHA mortgage insurance as well. Third, when there is a housing assistance payment contract assignment known as a HAP contract assignment. A HAP contract is the agreement between a public housing agency and a private property owner that is renting units to low-income families and individuals. The HAP contract assignment is when ownership of the property is changing hands and the contract needs to be assigned to the new owner. A CNA is required at this time for the property as due diligence tool to assess its physical needs so the new owner can establish the reserve for replacement deposits correctly. Finally, there are other eligible asset management milestones, such as the budget-based rent adjustment for 202-811 project rental assistance contracts, and others that you might be familiar with because they're related to insured properties, the partial payment of claims, and the transfer of physical assets. So CNA e-tool housing notice requirements. Lenders play an important role with CNAs with the CNA e-tool. Lenders alert account executives about what the property is planning on doing if challenges arise, review the CNA with needs assessor, and notify owner of immediate repair needs, potential issues, and new calculated R4R deposits. Work with the owner to address and resolve CNA issues, and submit the CNA to HUD through CNA e-tool once issues are resolved. And also submit a fund authorization form, the HUD Form 9250, for a one-time deposit and changes to monthly deposits for R4R. CNA deadlines. We also published last year a memo. It was actually signed on July 4th, so I like to call it the July 4th memo. It summarizes the guidance on which properties require 10-year CNAs and the deadlines. The 2002 MAP guide established the requirement for 223F firm applications received after March 15th, 2002 for those properties to require an update every 10 years from the date of the previous CNA. And then Housing Notice 2010-11 in 2010, this memo referred to, or this notice referred to as the HUD Multifamily Risk Mitigation Notice, extended this requirement for almost all other programs. Paragraph 5A is quite detailed, says 60 days. So depending on, says that the requirement becomes effective 60 days, 120 days, 90 days from the date the notice is published, depending on the timing of the pre-application invitation letters, full applications, etc., when the loan was being originated and being submitted for underwriting. I know that all that detail made sense for production and loan originators when that was written to determine which applications were going to be subject to the new requirement or not. But for asset management, we don't have easy access to all that information, so it's hard for us to provide sort of oversight. So to simplify it a bit, the July 4th memo states any properties under these programs with an initial endorsement date after December 31st, 2010 are expected to have 10-year CNA updates every 10 years from the final endorsement date. Of course, lenders are responsible for knowing, and owners are responsible for knowing if they have to do a 10-year update or not. But in terms of our oversight, we will be looking at that initial endorsement date after December 31st for 2010. The 213 program, not sure why it was not listed in the 2010 memo, but the requirement for a 10-year update CNAs was added to firm commitments for 213s starting in January 2017, and again, every 10 years from the final endorsement date. Programs utilizing the CNA e-tool. So there's 3 categories of multifamily programs utilizing CNA e-tool. There's the asset development programs, building new multifamily rental housing, and the refinance of existing multifamily rental housing. These are things that are done by the loan originator. Asset management programs involve HUD's oversight of existing HUD insured or assisted multifamily rental housing. So that oversight of asset management CNAs, that's what myself and Amir are responsible for, and many of you have responsibilities for as well. And then there's asset recapitalization. That's the providing the financing for energy-related repairs improvements with funding from the recent Inflation Reduction Act, as well as providing 20-year HAP contracts for projects undergoing the RAD conversion. So one of the things that prompted this webinar is to introduce a series of CNA e-tool video series specifically for servicing lenders. They were just posted this week. They're on the training page, the registration page or the class page for this class. The links are just up there very recently, and we'll eventually post them elsewhere on HUD Exchange. And there's 4 videos now. Each one's relatively short. You can actually watch one of them today. A video about gaining access to the CNA e-tool, a video about CNA roles, a video about initiating a CNA, and a video about completing the servicing lender screens. Let's see. Talk a little bit here about user registration for the CNA e-tool. In order to get access to the CNA e-tool, you'll need to go through a multi-step registration process. First, reach out to your organization's CNA e-tool coordinator to let them know you intend to register. Next, register for a user ID on the FHA Connection website. When your user ID is ready, your organization's CNA e-tool coordinator will retrieve your user ID and send it to you. The user ID registration on the FHA Connection website. After you've received your user ID, you'll need to register as a new user on the FHA Connection website. The FHA Connection homepage screen is featured on the left side of this screen. Once you go to the FHA Connection page, select the Registering a New User link beneath the Getting Started heading. Next, select the standard user registration form link. As shown in the image on the right, that link is highlighted in red in the middle of the screen. This will take you to the standard user registration form. So complete the standard user registration form. The form is shown on the left side of the screen. In order to complete the form, you'll need to enter information including your name, social security number, organization name, phone number, email address, a new password, and your mother's maiden name. Finally, Title I, Title II, and Service Bureau lenders need to complete an additional section of the registration form on system application selection. The system application selection portion of the registration form is featured in the image on the right side of the screen. You'll need to enter your lender ID and Service Bureau and authorize access to various FHA applications. And for the CNA eTool login process, once you have done all the previous steps, you log into FHA Connection, navigate to the multifamily main menu and select CNA eTool Capital Needs Assessment. This will take you to the Secure Systems page that is featured on the right side of the screen. Log into Secure Systems on this page by entering your user ID and password and pressing the login button. Once you're logged into Secure Systems, select the CNA eTool from the list of various secured systems. As a reminder, log into both FHA Connection and Secure Systems at least once every 90 days so that you do not get locked out of the system. Once you're logged into the CNA eTool, the first thing you want to do as a lender is initiate a CNA. We'll now play one of our new CNA eTool for Servicing Lender videos to teach you how to initiate a CNA. And after the video, Amir will come on and continue the presentation. Thank you.
Welcome to this video on initiating a CNA using CNA eTool. This is part of a series of videos that provides practical guidance to servicing lenders of HUD-insured multifamily rental properties on using CNA eTool for 10-year updates and other actions. Other videos in this series will cover access to CNA eTool as well as how to complete specific screens. Once you log in to FHA Connection and HUD Secure Systems and select CNA eTool, you will see your dashboard screen. The dashboard shows you what CNAs you are working on under My Desk. Under My Partner's Desk, you see which CNAs you initiated that you assigned to a partner or needs assessor firm. If you have submitted any CNAs to HUD, these will appear under With Agency. To initiate a new CNA, select Start New Assessment at the top of the screen. This will take you to the CNA summary screen where you'll begin completing information about the CNA, including the approving agency and the CNA type. There are three types of CNAs: asset development, asset management, and asset recapitalization. All lenders, both originating and servicing, may only work on asset development and asset management CNAs. Servicing lenders will work primarily on asset management CNAs. Refer to CNA eTool's User Path Matrix to determine what CNA type and program type you are able to initiate in CNA eTool. Then select the Program/Event. Note that what appears in the drop-down boxes will vary depending on who the submitter is. Under Asset Management, you only have three choices: PPC Loan Modification, Insured Mortgage, 10-Year Update, Insured Mortgage, and TPA, Assumption of Insured Mortgage. For this demonstration, we're selecting 10-Year Update, Insured Mortgage. Enter the appropriate property identification number. The number you need to enter depends on the CNA type and program type. Next, enter property information as indicated by the red vertical bar at the left of all required fields. Use the yes or no buttons to answer the questions found below the input fields. Review your information and select Save. You won't be able to save the screen if you haven't completed all required fields. The next screen that both you and the CNA preparer may access and complete is the Participants screen. The submitter's information, as well as the property contact shown on the CNA summary screen, automatically populates the top of the Participant screen. The participant screen is where you may wish to provide additional information not entered into the CNA summary's property information and property contact sections. For instance, you may wish to add the needs assessor contact information or the contact information for anyone who is a party to the transaction, such as the general contractor or architect. To do this, select the Add New Participant button near the top right of the screen. Complete all of the fields shown below and select the Save New Participant button on the right side of the screen under the entry fields. Once the CNA summary screen has been saved, you can assign or send the CNA to a preparer, which will be a member of a needs assessor firm. To do this, on the CNA summary screen, select the Options drop-down in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Select Send this CNA. A pop-up window will appear with Send To at the top. You will choose a needs assessor firm from the drop-down, then select Send CNA. Once you send the CNA to the needs assessor firm, it will appear on your dashboard under My Partner's Desk and on your partner's dashboard under New Assignments Received. Thank you for watching this video. For more information on how servicing lenders initiate and assign CNAs, see the CNA eTool User Guide version 3.2 on HUD's CNA eTool homepage at the address shown on the screen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amir Sadeh, as Daniel introduced earlier, and I will go and continue with the rest of this presentation to talk a little bit more about the specific screens and aspects and layout of the CNA eTool. How the CNA eTool is organized. The CNA eTool is organized into 5 key sections: the dashboard, assessment entry and validation, submitter input screens, preparer input screens, and the options menu. An example of a user's dashboard is featured in the image on the screen. The home screen is the main homepage of CNA eTool dashboard. From here, you can access CNAs that you, your organization, or your partner organization possesses. New CNAs are also created on the home screen. The CNAs in My CNAs are the CNAs that are most relevant to you. This includes CNAs that are waiting to be assigned to an individual in your organization, are already in your possession, are in your partner organization's possession, or have been submitted. Your dashboard will only display CNAs that have been edited in the last 3 months. Any CNAs older than 3 months will be hidden from the dashboard, but can be located using the Search tab. Within each capital needs assessment, there are a series of screens that will need to be filled out by the submitter, the role that a lender plays, and a series of screens that need to be filled out by the preparer. We will go into additional detail about the screens that a lender is responsible for in the upcoming slides. Each CNA within CNA eTool has a validation tab where users can view a variety of reports regarding the validation of a CNA. The eTool automatically validates and reviews the assessment data entered using built-in logic to identify potential issues and generate calculated results. Flags will indicate potentially faulty data. Some types of flags must be addressed before a CNA can be submitted. Finally, within each CNA, you have access to an options menu that allows you to take actions that affect the CNA as a whole. For example, from the options menu, you have the ability to submit a CNA, send a CNA to a partner, creating a new version of a CNA, or exporting a CNA to an Excel file. CNA roles/responsibilities for servicing lenders. There are different roles that users have within CNA eTool, as well as different responsibilities depending on a user's role. The user matrix shown on the screen walks users through the different roles and responsibilities over the life cycle of a CNA, all the way from the initiation of a CNA to the submission of a CNA. There are 3 main roles within CNA eTool: a submitter, a preparer, and an approving entity. Lenders take on the submitter role within CNA eTool. This means that you are responsible for both initiating and submitting a CNA within the CNA eTool. It is also your responsibility to review screens prepared by the preparer and to complete the financial factor and repair-replace decision screens. Finally, an approving entity, either HUD or USDA, reviews submitted CNAs. Now we're going to go through some of the specific screens in more depth. The CNA summary screen. After starting a new assessment from the dashboard, the servicing lender completes the CNA summary screen that is featured on the right side of the screen. Enter information including the approving agency, HUD, CNA type, either asset management or asset development, the program/event, such as a 10-year update, property ID number, property information, and property contact. Next is the participation screen. After completing the summary screen, a servicing lender may access and complete the participant screen that is featured on the right side of the slide. On the page, you provide additional contact information for the CNA, the general contractor, the architect, engineer, or other. Next is the narratives and attachments section. The narratives and attachments screen is where users enter descriptions of the condition of the property's physical attributes or other items that require additional commentary. Narrative sections on this screen are organized in accordance with the standard outline for CNAs published in ASTM 2018-08. Alternative outlines or presentation order are not permitted. As shown in this screenshot of the narratives and attachment page, you can choose from various outline topics and enter a corresponding summary and attachments. Financial factors screen. On the financial factors screen featured on this slide, specify the parameters to structure a plan for funding properties' recommended future repairs and replacements. Enter an initial deposit to the Reserve for Replacement account, or IDRR. Enter the annual deposit to the Reserve for Replacement, or ADRR. Estimate and add comments on the percentage change in annual deposit, the percentage and inflation of capital needs, percentage interest earned on RFR balance, and enter property's mortgage information. Right-sizing replacement reserve deposits. Right-sizing replacement reserve deposits is an iterative process. As a lender, you'll need to review the financial schedule and estimate period recap screen, part of which is shown on the right side of this slide. The screen shows the cost of scheduled repairs/replacements per year, as well as the uninflated and inflated dollar amounts. Use this screen to determine if increasing reserve deposits will enable the property to recover repairs and replacements in years 1 to 10. Ensure that you're increasing the reserve deposits to sustainable levels. Look toward alternate funding sources if reasonable reserve deposits cannot address scheduled capital needs. Repair replace decision screen. The repair replace decision screen, as shown on the right side of this slide, is where you will make final decisions about a CNA's preparer's recommendations for each component. Note that servicing lenders will likely follow the CNA preparer's recommendations, but they should still understand how the screen works and what they need to do on it. If there is a disagreement about a component or if any additional information is needed, the servicing lender should speak directly to the needs assessor directly before completing the repair replace decision screen. You can select a component from the component type list, make a final decision, the preparer's choice is in bold, select the drop down to view preparer recommendations and alternatives for a component. You can then choose an action, such as to repair or replace, choose when to address the component, such as now or at the end of its useful life. You can choose the duration, choose the location, or choose the class of work or scope. such as a repair or a level 1, 2, or 3 alteration. Finally, we want to discuss the CNA eTool resources. If you'd like to learn more about the resources discussed during this presentation, please check out the resources highlighted on this screen. These include the HUD Exchange website, and linked on there is the CNA eTool programs, as well as the Learning Pathways Capital Needs Assessment eTool page. Within that page, there's the CNA eTool Servicing Lenders videos, which we discussed beforehand, and coming soon, there will also be a CNA eTool learning module. You can also access this information on the HUD.gov website via the CNA eTool homepage. And as well, you can also send an email if you have further questions to cnaetool@hud.gov. This deck and a recording of this webinar will be made available on the HUD Exchange shortly, if not already on there. Finally, we have provided the speaker contact information. Please reach out to Daniel Clark and myself over email if you have any additional questions. Pictures of Daniel and myself are featured on the screen. You can reach out to Daniel at daniel.j.clark@hud.gov, and you can reach out to me at amir.m.sadeh@hud.gov. And with that, I will hand this over to Daniel.
Great. And Amir, you'll stay with us to help answer some of the questions that are coming in.
Absolutely.
First, somebody helped me realize I made a mistake both in one of my slides and in my talking points in referring to the memo that I referred to as the July 4th memo. Completely different area of work that I do. The July 4th memo had to do with physical inspections. It's actually the memo in question about the requirements for properties with FHA insured loans is actually April 20th, 2023. So the fourth month, not the 4th of July. So apologize for that. We can make sure to I'll put the links into the chat here for those memos as well soon. So first question, once a CNA is submitted, what is the typical production time for approval? We're currently waiting on a CNA for a HAP assumption. It can take a few weeks depending on the complexity of the CNA, also getting into the work queue for the account executive, possibly needing some help from a construction analyst. If you have a CNA that you've submitted, and if there's urgency, please, and if you haven't heard from the account executive, please reach out to them directly or to the field office, to the branch chief, to ask about getting that CNA approved, or the person that you're working on with the HAP assumption. If you're having any problems still with that, then please reach out to Amir and myself, and we can follow up and help with that as well. Next question is access to the CNA eTool only for lenders. Can owners get access and utilize it? And I know that initially owners did not have access and ability to utilize the CNA eTool. They are, especially if they were for FHA insured properties, it is the lender's responsibility to go into the eTool and initiate the CNA. For owners of non-insured properties outside the portfolios that you manage yourself, I'm not actually sure the status of that. Initially, they did not have any access to the CNA eTool. They would have to find a needs assessor who would have the responsibility to initiate within the CNA directly and submit it. Honestly, I'm not sure. There was some talk about changing that, and I'm unfortunately not sure of the answer. I don't know if Amir, if you know.
I believe actually it is the case that they can access it and see it, but they cannot enter any information. That's what I know.
Great. So thank you for that. So it is primarily for the lenders and the needs assessors themselves, as well as HUD staff. How can you get an FHA login if you already have a secure systems login? I believe you would need to, you should have a FHA connection coordinator who you would, especially if you're, if you don't know of anybody on the servicing side of your business, if there's an origination side of your organization, they would have familiarity with the CNAs and how to get the FHA login. And again, if you're not able to find the answer there, there was, you can email both Amir or myself. There's also, maybe that's on the next slide is a, no, it's not. The, Amir, did you go over a resources slide? Sorry with this.
I did, yes. Well, a few slides earlier.
Right.
And actually, this helps answer another question: will there be an updated e-tool user guide in the near future? There actually is updated user guides. They update every so often, but if you do go onto the CNA e-tool homepage, that's on HUD.gov. It has a whole list of resources, which includes the most up-to-date CNA e-tool user guide.
Next question, is there a list of needs assessor firms? There's something I'll have to follow up again, unless you happen to know, Amir. I know 2 years ago when we started working on the CNA tool, there was some conversation about that. You know, HUD is often not in the position of wanting to provide lists of individual companies, potentially favoriting one over another. So I'm not sure that we're able to do that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Daniel. I have no additional information.
Another question that we received earlier: how can we edit submitted CNAs or submitted CNAs that are returned to us from HUD? And the submitted version of a CNA cannot be edited. If the agency returns a submitted CNA, the returned CNA cannot be edited either. What you can do is you can create a new version from the returned CNA, and the new version can be edited to address the reasons that it was returned.
And the way you would do that is you would go onto the resubmitted CNA, and there's an option to copy that information into a new CNA, which you can then edit.
And I hopefully just successfully put into the chat the link to the 2023 memo from April of 2023 on CNA requirements for properties with an FHA insured loan. If you have any other questions, put them into the Q&A box in the lower right corner. Again, if you have any questions, of course, go to the CNA. You can go to the CNA eTool homepage. You can also go to the HUD Exchange website. These classes are currently available on the class page, the videos, as well as today's presentation, and the videos will soon be available elsewhere. And you can email questions to cnaetool@hud.gov, or you can email questions directly to Amir or myself.
There seem to be some additional questions, Daniel, that just came into the Q&A.
Great.
One is for non-FHA projects, is UFAS compliance required to be addressed in the CNA?
I do not know what UFAS compliance is.
If there's an issue with a CNA, how will you be notified?
The question about accessibility, there are lots of accessibility. So the UFAS compliance question. So I don't know the specifics about UFAS, but obviously there are a lot of accessibility requirements in our properties, and they're typically need to be addressed during the critical or non-critical repair stages after the CNA has been submitted. Sorry.
No worries. And then in regards to being notified if there's an issue, there will be a resubmittal. It will be sent back to your dashboard. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there will be some sort of email notification as well?
The account executive should be emailing you to let you know that they've returned.
Correct. Yes, thank you.
But you can check the status of it yourself in the CNA eTool, as Amir said. The next question, the financial factors screenshot shown in the slides did not contain the mortgage information fields. These fields are newer, and there does not appear to be guidance as to how to appropriately complete these fields. Can we go into how to appropriately complete those fields in more depth? Amir, are you familiar with those fields yet?
No, not yet, but it is something we can follow up on later with an additional email for resources.
I'm wondering if they are related to a new, a CNA for a new mortgage application, insurance application, and whether or not they're related to 10-year updates or not.
That might be the case.
I'm sorry, we can't help you with more on that question now. So and then another question, if there is an issue with the CNA, I assume this will delay production. Does production start all over? And I assume there you're referring to the production side, that is underwriting new loans and applications, which is not what is not something that Amir and I work with directly. It's certainly, if there's an issue with a CNA, it will certainly delay production. It doesn't mean that the underwriting process, though, has to start all over. Okay, so Matthew's confirming that that we need to look into those mortgage fields for 10-year updates. So Matthew will do that. Thank you. I have a few more minutes if there are any other questions. We
Oh,
got it.
actually, did you see the note that we just received?
Go ahead.
There will
Yep.
be a new curriculum launch on the HUD Exchange very soon, which has a module on how to fill out the mortgage section.
I think we're coming up on 15 minutes, so not seeing any more questions yet. Coming into the Q&A, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Of course, you can always reach out to us via email at a later time. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and please check out the other training videos on this class page. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.